of time by the Emerald uh, Indian LIS Research Fund Award, and she did receive a lot of commendation for it. So, if I were to continue speaking, I think so I could keep on speaking, but now, without further ado, I now think so we couldn't have had a better person for speaking on ethics and research than Dr. Meghna herself, who has been so closely related to research. So I invite Dr. Meghna to please enrich our students with regards to today's topic.
Thank you, Mr. Samson, for those kind words. I also thank the St. Andrews management, the principal and the faculty members for arranging this session and inviting me. It's really good to know that the college has taken initiative to build up ethical foundation for the students right at this age. So it's a very good initiative. I would really appreciate it, and I would try my level best to set the ball rolling, let the students know about the basics of what is plagiarism, how to avoid it, how to stick to the ethical practices and still carry out very good research. So I will share my PPT. Is the screen visible properly?
Yes, ma'am.
So we are going to discuss about the various aspects of ethics in research, and our special emphasis today will be on plagiarism and the ways to avoid it. The basic outline of my presentation is why do we do research? What is the need for research? How do we ethically conduct research? What are the various issues involved? Then we start emphasizing on plagiarism as one of the important ethical issues and consequences of the wrong practices. What are the various types of plagiarism? How do we avoid them? Which are the available software, and a brief summary. If time permits, I would also like to have a small quiz, which would be after the session, just to gauge what we have covered is really well grasped by the students. It's not a test or anything, it's just that, you know, it would be a good interaction when we know what the students have really been able to grasp through the session. So why do we actually start doing research? What is the need for research? We basically start doing research because we want to increase our understanding for a particular topic. We want to solve certain problems, and we want to develop knowledge in that particular area. And that's how we start doing research. At student level, we have small projects through which we try and develop. We conduct small surveys, we have focus group interviews, and so many other research methodologies followed. And that is to kind of build upon the existing knowledge, to identify the answers of certain questions where there are gaps. And that's how we start developing our research questions and work upon it. So our basic aim is to develop the knowledge in the particular field. And when we say that we have to develop knowledge in a particular field, we have to follow certain ethical principles so that what we are adding up to the knowledge is the correct information and not adding to any kind of wrong information by adopting any unethical practices. So the fundamental is when we are doing research, it has to be done properly, correctly, sticking to all the ethical principles and guidelines. It's a very important component in the academic world where it's a part of our degree, it's a part of our curriculum, and we have to do it. But even if it is just that, it has to be done very, very meticulously. So there are several data research skills that all of us have to imbibe while we are doing the research. So literature review, how to write a review, citation management, data collection, data analysis, presentation of the data in form of various data visualization, the language that we use for research. Everything is very, very important, and most important is the academic integrity and ways to avoid plagiarism in our work. So it's a very, very important research skill that all of us have to develop while we are starting with our research. So what do we call as ethical practices? Any norms that are laid down that distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior are some of the ethical guidelines. So for example, in medicine, we have certain guidelines for the doctors, medical ethics. They have to take oath. They are all ethics related to their profession. Similarly, for many other professions, psychology, philosophy, there are various ethical guidelines laid down in each profession, and the people who are involved have to follow them. Similarly, when we are a part of any institution or any organization, there are various guidelines, or there are various rules that we have to follow. Many of them are a part of ethical guidelines. So it is very important, similarly, to adhere to the ethical norms when we are doing research. Okay, so when we are doing research also, it is very important that we follow the ethical guidelines. Now, what are the ethical guidelines when we talk about in terms of research? So there are basically two things. One is how we conduct our research. If we have to broadly divide those ethical guidelines, they are how we want to conduct the research, and secondly, how we want to project our research, publish our research. So basically in these two areas, if you see, we have to see to it that there has to be honesty and openness, a complete transparency in what we are doing. Our data that we collect has to be honestly collected and presented. If we have got negative results, we must report negative results. We must not fabricate any kind of data. We must not falsify any kind of data. So there are many aspects involved. There is confidentiality. We have to take care and safeguard all the confidential information that the respondent has shared with us. And even if we are publishing, we have to see to it that some kind of confidentiality of the person involved or the respondents is maintained. When in sciences, when we are dealing with animals, when we are dealing with animal and the species, we have to have certain guidelines which are followed, laid down. There is an institutional ethics committee in most of the research organizations where there are guidelines which are laid down and the researcher has to follow. In psychology, when we are dealing with human subjects, we have to also take an informed consent from the participants. So all these small things make up to the ethical practices involved in research. And one of the most important part is to avoid plagiarism. Okay, so we have to give proper credit to all the people whose work we are using to build upon our new research work. It is extremely important to have proper form of attribution when it comes to using certain pieces of information from others' work. And when we are publishing also, there are several ethical guidelines that we need to maintain. So amongst the various things about data fabrication, data falsification, and human animal subject protection, confidentiality, integrity, what we are today going to focus is to how do we avoid plagiarism? How do we stick to the ethical practices? Okay. When we talk about specifically the research publications, there are various forms of ethical or practices or misconduct that can happen. Like you submit same article to 2 different journals. There are authorship issues that somebody who has not done work also you are making him or her the author, or somebody who has done and you are still excluding the person. You are not disclosing certain procedures of your research work. You are fabricating your data. You are manipulating images and so on. So there are several dimensions to this, which we all have to be very, very careful. And it's really very important that we start with a strong ethical foundation from our early days when we engage ourselves in research. So now, what is plagiarism? To steal somebody's ideas and to pass them off as somebody else's ideas is basically plagiarism. And it is derived from the Latin word plagiaris, which means a kidnapper. Do we really want to be associated with such a negative terminology is something that each one of us have to really introspect and see that how I can avoid plagiarism, how I can do my work in a proper way. So it's a kind of an intellectual theft. You know, when we are copying somebody's work and not giving them the appropriate attribution or the appropriate credit, then that is as good as kidnapping. It's a bad thing to do, and we do not want to engage ourselves in such kind of academic miscredit. So it's a very, very common amongst the publication misconduct that we just throw through that image. This is one of the most common types of misconduct, and it takes various forms. You know, it takes different forms, from just copying the entire paragraph to doing some kind of patchwork to just manipulating an image or copying somebody's music, remixing it with something. So all these are various types of plagiarism activities, and it can include, you know, you have copied somebody's data, you have copied somebody's words, or you have just taken some ideas and copied them and you are passing them off as your own ideas. So all this will amount to having a misconduct, and having what you have done will be called as plagiarism. Again, if we look at it in detail, so if turning somebody else's work as our own, copying ideas, failing to put proper quotation marks in our writing, giving incorrect source of information. You know, I have read some paper in which it was written about a particular paper, and when I cite that paper about which I am reading without reading the original source, sometimes I make a mistake in citing. So unless and until I have not read the original source, I should not be using that particular source of information, nor should I be citing that original source. So unless and until I lay my hands on the original source of information and read it, understand the point of view, I should not be using it in my work. Please remember this basic rule very well, students. It happens that we are not able to get a particular resource, and then, you know, we just write in the same way that the existing author has written. One of the very famous examples with respect to this is, while writing about plagiarism or while writing about misconduct in one of the papers, an author cooked up a particular reference to write to show that how this thing happens. And that cooked up reference was further cited by 400 people, 400 scientists. In actual, that reference did not exist. It did not exist at all. Okay, so such things do happen. So unless and until you lay your hands on the original source of information, on the original piece of literature, please do not use it. Okay, sometimes what people also do is they just change 1 or 2 words here and there, in the sentence and then use the same sentence. But that also amounts to plagiarism. If you copy the structure of the sentence and just replace one or two words here and there, that will still amount as plagiarism. So when we are doing all this, we have to be very, very sure. Okay. So if you are copying 4 or 5 sentences from different sources and then, putting them as one paragraph, that kind of a patchwork also, even if you are citing the authors at the end of your project or at the end of your paper, it would still be kind of plagiarized. That content would still be plagiarized. So there are ways that you should not be doing this. Okay, if you copy images, plagiarism of images is also very similar to that from this, any kind of text. So you can just copy the image and then don't give the source and other things, then it will not be correct. Okay. There are some very famous cases that we come across and we have read, and all of you must have sometimes read or maybe this, but when Melania Trump gave her first speech in 2016, she was accused that this speech matched with Michelle Obama's speech in 2008. It is a very famous case. You can read more about it. Similarly, when Jane Goodall in her book Seeds of Hope, there was a lot of accusation that she had lifted several passages, but then it was not clear whether she or her co-author had done this. So in such kind of cases, where you are also authoring with somebody else, or when you are doing a project with somebody else, you have to ensure, because your name is equally tarnished. Okay, so your name is equally tarnished. In that case, you have to be very, very sure. So if you take the case of India, there was a professor of Sri Venkateshwara University in Tirupati. This chemistry professor is accused of plagiarizing more than 70 articles. Okay, if you ask me today, till the time 70 happened, what was the situation? But maybe that time there was no proper rules, regulations, but that's no more the case. There is software available, there are rules in place. So it's not anymore very easy to do this and get away. Okay, it is not anymore easy. But these are some of the really famous cases that we can know who have been penalized for their plagiarized content. See, it's not a new phenomenon. Plagiarism is not a new phenomenon. It existed long ago. So when it comes to in academic circles, in journalism, there is a very old history of things being plagiarized. But with internet and online resources, things have become very, very easy. Students just copy, Control-C, Control-V. They will do some kind of formatting. They will give a bibliography at the end of it, and their project is done. But it's not so. Your teacher, your supervisor can definitely identify what you have done, what is your own writing, what is not your own writing. They can easily judge this. It does not take time for a teacher to identify this. Even if there is no software available, the teacher knows that this is not the writing of X student or Y student. Okay, you can definitely use what the author is saying, but you have to use it in the appropriate form and give it appropriate credit. Okay, only then it will not be considered as a plagiarized content. Okay, so a very important point that I would like to make here, it is very easy to copy paste, and similarly it is very easy to get caught today. It is very, very easy. There are softwares, there are robust softwares available, and now the softwares are becoming even more powerful with a lot of artificial intelligence imbibed within themselves. So with the help of artificial intelligence, it's not only the sequence of the words or number of words or the structure of the sentence, even if the idea is taken, these softwares are able to detect, and that's the kind of progress that is happening in the softwares. And as I said, your teachers also will be immediately be able to identify in case you have just picked up some information without proper citation. Okay, please keep this in very much in mind very clearly, that the easier it is to get to write a plagiarized content, the easier it is to get caught. So it's not only that because we are getting caught, we must do, we should not do it. But as I said, it's very easy. Everybody feels that, my teacher is expecting a bit too much for me. And what if I don't get caught? I want to finish this off. I am too busy. I have many other things to do. And everyone does it. So what's the problem if I do it? So such kind of things come to the mind of the student sometimes, but we should avoid this. As I said, it's very easy to get caught. So why do we think that it is incorrect? We are cheating ourselves when we are doing such kind of thing. And that's restricting our learning. We are really not learning anything more. And these consequences are not worth the risk. Adopting unfair means in the exam, how risky it is, similarly as risky as this it is. There is no technological aid, but here there is a technological aid to add upon. Okay, so what is expected from us? Expected is only that we give due credit to the person whose ideas we have used. Okay? And we do not want to be labeled as an unethical person or a person following unethical practices. So we should absolutely avoid these kind of things. Okay. So now what are the consequences? It destroys our reputation as a student, as a researcher, as an academician. There are several legal repercussions also. There are monetary repercussions where scientists have had to pay. And anyway, now if you see, UGC has come up with proper guidelines for academic institution as what kind of similarity is acceptable similarity, what is not acceptable, what is a level 1, what is level 2, and how one can be debarred from that particular project or that paper or that research or the particular degree. So all these things are very well laid out. So these are some of the very dire consequences of plagiarism. So we should definitely not engage in these kinds of practices. Now, sometimes it happens that it's not my intention to copy. I do not want to copy, or I do not want to not give a person the credit. But because I am not aware of that this can be termed as plagiarized content, this has just happened. My intention is not to copy. My intention is not to plagiarize. So we have to understand that there is this basic difference in intentional and unintentional, and both can be taken care of. The whole idea of having this session is to avoid unintentional plagiarism. Okay. So we have to be very focused and see how we can avoid it. So as far as intentional plagiarism, it is that I am fully aware that this is going to amount to cheating, but I still choose to go ahead with it. I still choose to do it. Okay. I am just taking the entire paper from somebody and I'm calling it my own paper. I am not citing the sources properly. Okay. And something that I have already written and published, I am again publishing. Just because I have written it earlier does not give me the entire freedom to use the same thing again. Okay. Even if I have done it myself. So self-plagiarism is also one of the very important types that we have to bear in mind, that even if I have done this work, I have to give proper attribution to when that article was published, what was the journal where it was published, all the details. And the same thing again and again over different papers with slight modifications in title, with slight modification here and there, I should not be using, even if it's my own work. Okay. So intentional plagiarism is something that also has very serious repercussions It amounts to cheating and we should definitely avoid it. See, I've been using the word citation constantly. Citation, I hope you all are very clear that when we are using some author's ideas or some author's work, we have to give credit to the author and also list it as a part of our references. Okay, so even if it is our work, we should not be doing it. Okay, so in unintentional plagiarism, what happens is I don't know that what I am doing is incorrect. So what is my responsibility in that case? My responsibility in that case is to increase my awareness, is to read upon and find out the proper scholarly procedures. Only then I will be able to do a good job. Just by saying that I was not aware, every time you will not be able to get away with it. So failure to cite a proper resource properly, to quote properly, to put a paragraph, to rephrase it in your own words, to be able to put a good summary of the particular piece of information that you are using, all will be termed as plagiarized contents. But increasing our awareness, developing the skill is something in our hands, and that we must do. And I am telling you, it is as like driving or like swimming. The more we do, the more we write, we are able to do it well. Okay, it's a matter of practice. It is a proper process that we have to follow, and you will realize that your paper or your content will hardly have any similarity with what you are writing. Yes, research is always built upon previous existing resources. Okay, it is always built upon some work that has already been done. We are not doing any great kind of fundamentals. Not everybody of us does, that kind of great fundamental research where we are not able to identify. And why do we take support of existing literature? Is to justify our arguments sometimes, is sometimes to build upon our arguments on that base. So they have worked from say 1 to 5, and then further you are working from 5 to 10. So literature is always going to be a very important part, but based on that, how we use it, how properly credits are given to the authors is something that we have to learn. Now, if we look at ways to avoid plagiarism, basically there are 3 main ways. One is paraphrasing, second is summarizing, and third is quoting. These are the 3 standard ways in which we have to avoid plagiarism. Now, when we say paraphrasing, what does the word paraphrasing actually mean? Here it means that we have to state the author's idea in our own words, okay, and in our own sentence structure. We just cannot find synonyms on the computer and replace 1 or 2 words in the sentence and say that now this is my sentence and I have given it a citation, and then still why is it showing as plagiarized content, or why is it showing as a similar content in the reports of the software? Because what you have done is kind of just done some kind of patchwork, replaced 1 or 2 words here and there, and therefore this is still going to show up as a similar content with the original source. So when you are doing paraphrasing, understand well what the author is trying to say, and then write the same thing in your own words, in your own structure. This we can do for a short paragraphs or like this. But when we use summarizing, we come to the central idea of what the author is trying to say in the paper. Okay, but it's not going to be like an essay where we repeat a few key points in our essay. When we are writing an essay, we repeat a few points again and again. But while summarizing, we have to be crisp, and we have to summarize the central idea that the author is trying to put forth in his paper. When it comes to quotation, we have to use the exact words of the author. Exactly verbatim, the way the author has used, we have to be using it. How to put quotations as a part of your written paper is a different point, but how you quote is very important, that you have to use the exact words of the author. Also remember, your entire paper cannot be paraphrased, summarized, and somebody else's quotations. A large part of it has to be your original content. Okay, your entire paper, or otherwise it is not called as research. If there is nothing original in the paper, it is not called as a research paper. Okay, what you are doing is you are just putting forth what different other people have put, and you are just putting them in one paper. That is not a research work. Okay, please bear in mind that there are three important ways to avoid plagiarism, that is paraphrasing, summarizing, and quoting. And all these three must be followed by citations in your paper. Okay, when you are writing your research paper in form of a dissertation, in form of a thesis, in form of a journal article, whatever, it has to be followed by an citation which is in the text. Maybe it's in form of a footnote, endnote, and it has to be coupled with a reference list at the end of the paper. Okay, how to cite, what to cite, when to cite, which method to follow is another very big different session, but you have to bear in mind that you have to cite in case you are using any of these methods to put forth somebody else's ideas, but still citation is a must. You have to give credit to the author. Okay, this is the main part of the entire ways to avoid plagiarism. Now, as I said, if we look at individual methods, that is, for example, paraphrasing, we have to rewrite the statement in our own words. And the length of the paraphrase usually should be as long as the original, because that's how you will be able to convey what the author has conveyed in that particular paragraph. But it is definitely different from a summary, where the summary conveys only the central idea. Okay, it's not just substituting just phrases here and there. Please bear that very clearly in mind. You know, pasting that paragraph in Word, then using your word skills and substituting it with synonyms is not called paraphrasing. Here it has to be your own sentence and your own structure. Okay, and it has to give the same details that were given in the original sentence or the original paragraph. You cannot miss out on something. I remember, as a personal experience, during developing my research proposal, during the beginning stages, I had written a particular thing, and my teacher that time immediately pointed out, no, Meghna, this is not something Hartle has said. So the way I had paraphrased did not convey the original meaning, and my teacher was very sharp enough to immediately point out that the way I had done it was incorrect. See, again, it was unintentional. I had mentioned that so and so Stephen Harnad is the author and he is stating so and so, but the way I had done that was incorrect. So the meaning that was conveyed through that writing was not the meaning that the author had originally stated. So such kind of things happen when we are trying to paraphrase. Therefore, we have to be very sure and reading the same text again to get the proper meaning of that particular sentence or that particular paragraph is very, very important. Okay, so this is something that we have to bear very, very categorically in mind, that when we are paraphrasing, we have to use our own words and our own sentence structure. Okay. We can just have a look at these three paragraphs as an example. The first one is the original paragraph, and the second one, see here there are references here and there. This is very similar to what kind of thing that I just cited about my example, that the error on my part that I had done. So now if you see it here also you will feel I have given the citation, I have given the reference here, I have given it in my reference list at the end. So why is this still called a similar content? Okay, because the way I have done it is just, changing the sequence of the sentences here and there and putting the reference. So this is not paraphrasing. The actual paraphrased sentence is here below in black, where it has written very clearly and conveying every meaning from what is written in the first sentence. So this is one of the, just as an example, you can just have a look at this and you will understand that in spite of giving a citation, it does not mean that it is not similar. You have just changed some sequence here and there, active voice, passive voice, and then kind of, put it in your work, but that's not the way it should be done. Okay. This is one more example. In blue is a paragraph, which is the original paragraph, which I suppose as a researcher I am referring to. These are two attempts that I have tried to, this is purely plagiarism, where I am not even giving the reference, for example. The second attempt where I am giving the citation, but it is still called plagiarism because of the way that it has been paraphrased is not up to the mark. It is not done in the way it should be done. So after all these attempts, in the a third attempt, I am able to successfully paraphrase this and write in the format which is an acceptable format and not considered to be a plagiarized content. Okay, so these are just examples which will tell you that in spite of having a citation given along with the text, it is not out of the similarity index. It is still a part of the similarity index. The second way, as we saw that there are three ways of avoiding plagiarism. The first one being paraphrasing, which we saw with various examples. The second one is summarizing. Here summarizing is we have to use a shortened version, and it should include the central idea or the central argument of the paper. What is the main thing? What is the main thing that is emerging out of this paper is something that you have to write. Do not write it like a big essay where we always sometimes repeat the points. Okay. And when you are summarizing what somebody has written, do not give your opinion on that. Do not merge your opinion there. When you want to give your opinion on what X author has said, it has to be after you have summarized what the author has said completely as a central argument of that paper. After that, you write what you have to say, what is your take on that paper, whether it's the correct approach, not correct approach, can be modified or whatever is your experience in that regard. Okay. See, things like this come by practice, come by the way we are doing it. Okay. So everything in your first paper is not going to be fantastic. It will need a lot of efforts from your side. It will need help from your teachers, your librarians to help you to correct all this, to identify what has been the shortcoming in spite of doing all this. So, but with all help and all support that we have in our college, we will definitely be able to do a good job. And it comes by practice. Okay. Learning this when you are doing your master's, learning this when you are writing your PhD thesis, no. This is the appropriate age. And when you have to start learning and imbibing these practices in yourself. Okay. Now, this is just an example. I know it's a blur image, but something that here also they have given the original text. And because it's original here, they have put it in the inverted commas. Now, this same thing is summarized in this. So we have to see to it that the central essence of the entire paper has come into your summary and it is properly, cited while we are writing in the text also. Okay. So these as far as summarizing concerned, the main point is that the central idea of the paper has to come. Now, for both summarizing and paraphrasing, what is most important is that we have to read the material very, very carefully, understand what are the viewpoints of the authors. Sometimes it may take more than one reading to understand, but we have to do it. To state it in our own words, we have to first understand them properly, and then only we will be able to state it. Students, you all must be familiar with this Purdue's online writing lab. I'm really fond of this website a lot, and you will find wonderful material on citation, on avoiding plagiarism, on examples, on exercises on this. And again, as I said, it's a matter of practice that all of us are able to overcome these kind of problems that we initially face as researchers, as research writers, when we are doing this. Okay, but the whole point is read the original resource, read it twice, thrice if required. If required, I'm not saying as a thumb rule you have to read. If you understand and if you are able to produce it well in your own words, in the first reading, well and good, and then you can write it. Either you have to paraphrase it or you have to summarize it. Quotation is not difficult, but has to be done meticulously, because we are using the exact words of the author, how it has to be done, where it has come, what page number it has come. It has to be put in quotes, but it's not that your entire paper should have n number of quotations. There are certain ways that we have to write the research paper also. Paraphrasing, summarizing are most common. Quotation, when we want to actually, those words have a lot of meaning, the way the author has used the words, if that is very powerful in conveying something that the author is saying, then you use the quotation format. Otherwise, all over the paper, please do not use the quotation format. Okay, it is exactly and precisely, if you want to put it in your paper, you feel that the way it is put is fantastic, and therefore I want it. Suppose English literature, for example, will use a lot of quotations because you want to put it in the form the author has said it. The words there are very, very important, and therefore it has to be effectively used. It's not that you use quotations all throughout your paper, even if you are doing a social science kind of a thing, where you can express it in your own words. So it's very, very important when you quote and why you quote. Okay, please keep this in mind. Even if there are three major methods of avoiding plagiarism, the most common methods are paraphrasing and summarizing. We will be using quotation where we want to use the exact words to make the impact on the reader. Okay, only then we will be using the quotation format. So be very selective in using each of the techniques to avoid plagiarism. When you will use a paraphrase, when you will use a quotation, is something that you have to decide, plan well and decide. Okay, so when we use each method, I was just saying that when words are just as important as the message. Okay, the words carry that message as beautifully as anything else, and you want the readers to appreciate that, to understand that, then you will quote. For example, as I said, in literature, in poetry, it's those words that matter. So when we have to paraphrase, where the message is more important than the way it is done, and most of our research writing is paraphrasing and summarizing. So suppose I'm talking about a big thesis which is similar to my thesis, similar work in the sense, similar in the sense, the central idea on which they are working, but maybe they are working in a different geographical location or with certain different kind of respondents, but somewhere there is a central idea which matches with mine. In that case, I will summarize the findings of that researcher in my thesis or in my dissertation. That way, I will have to use summarizing here. I cannot, keep on paraphrasing everything that the researcher has written in his research paper or in his thesis. So in that case, my objective is to convey the central idea of the earlier researcher's work. So I will summarize that work here. Okay. So this is how we have to keep in mind which method we will use when we have to do the different ways by which we can avoid when we are writing, actually, primarily when we are writing. So see, if you look at this, you will understand. So if there is a cite, how the reader perceives when he reads your paper. So if there is a citation and a quotation mark, it means that it is somebody else's exact word. If there is citation and there is no quotation marks, it is either paraphrased or it is summarized. But if there is no quotation, no citation, the reader will feel that this is something that is your idea. You have expressed it. It's your own creation. So if it is your own creation, you need not cite nor quote. So when you are writing the paper, this structure has to be there in front of your mind. Okay. Now, everything that we read or that we use need not be cited. What needs to be cited is something that we have to keep in mind. It's not always about only text. It's not always about published literature. Okay. It's not about just a journal article. So when we are using ideas presented in a magazine or a newspaper or through any other medium, we have to see to it that we cite it. So when we are citing, it's not only just the books, the journals, or the internet resources. We have to cite various other types of information sources from where we have derived that information and we are using it in our research. Okay, if you are using diagrams, if you are using illustrations, some charts, okay, all this has to be given a proper, the source of it has to be very well acknowledged. Okay, this is very, very important. Now, again, as I said, I am very fond of this Purdue OWL site, and here there is a very simple flowchart given. Just observe this flowchart very carefully and see what should I cite. And again, I am re-emphasizing on the fact that my paper cannot have all citations, all paraphrased items, or all summarized items, or all quotation. My original contribution to the paper has to be major. Okay. But wherever I have taken support of literature during my writing, I have to cite it. Okay. Please keep this in mind very, very clearly. So is it your information or your idea? Yes. Have you published it before? As I said, even self-plagiarism is not allowed. So if you have published it before, you have to cite. If you have not, then you need not cite. See, this way, if you look at the flow chart carefully, it suggests very nicely that this is how you have to train your mind to ask questions, what I have to cite, what I don't have to cite. When you do it for 4 or 5 cases, you will automatically get an idea that this is something I need to cite. Then I decide whether I paraphrase it, whether I summarize it, or whether I quote it. Okay. So just have a look for a minute of this chart, and then where you are copying, whether you are copying it exactly, then you have to quote. You have to use proper block quotation or less than 40 words quotation. All this is a part of writing, which we will come to as we proceed. Okay. So, and see now, look at this particular thing. If it is common knowledge, like the sun rises in the east, Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India, water boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. This is something that you do not require any kind of citations. These are very well established facts. Okay, and here you need not cite. So therefore I said it's very important to understand that what we have to cite. It's called as common knowledge, and common knowledge, established facts are something that we need not cite at all when we are writing. Okay. What we do not cite. That's why our own experiences, we don't have to cite. Our own knowledge, our own ideas, whatever we have worked in the lab, our own research results, we are not citing them because that's our own creation. Common knowledge, as I said, is very, very something that you should not cite. But what is common knowledge in India may not be a common knowledge in America. So there are these kind of cultural differences, geographical differences, which we have to be aware when we are doing this kind of work also. Okay, so please bear this in mind, even if it is common knowledge, whether it is where we are doing it here, we should be sure then it can be accepted. Okay, now accepted facts like pollution is bad for health. Such kind of things, you need not give any citations. They are established facts. There is common knowledge like this, that the sun rises in the east and all that. You need not give any kind of citation. So bear clearly in mind what has to be cited, what has to be not cited. Okay, common knowledge, as I said, we need not cite it at all. Okay, now just look at this. It's just a small table that the Duke's University has given on their website, and it's very easy. So if you have to cite sources, what you have to do, either it has to be parenthetical, that means the reference in text has to be in bracket, or it has to be footnote, endnote. But that depends on the way, the method, the citation style that you are using. Okay, and then there has to be a bibliography. If it's fact or common knowledge, there is no citation required, no end of reference required. If it's a quotation, yes, both the things are required. If you have paraphrased, yes, both are required. If you have summarized, yes, both are required. Okay, so this at a glance gives you the method that you are using. In that case, what is required. So whenever if you are paraphrasing, quoting, or summarizing, in text citation as well as at the end reference list is very, very necessary. Okay, there are some do's and don'ts with respect to what we should do when we are using these techniques. So first, let us look at some of the do's. As I have been emphasizing constantly, there is a need to read the original source again carefully before we use it for our work. Take proper notes, maybe in whatever digital format. I'm not saying notes the way we started with, but notes, use Mendeley, whatever reference management software, Zotero or whatever, or keep it in your notes, or there are so many other management tools that you can use, and try to build a summary for each of the paper in your own words. What is good in this paper that you want to use it, which you can correlate with your own study, is something that you should take note of. Okay, these are some of the very important do's. If this step is done properly, your paraphrasing and summary will be really done well. Okay, and now you are blessed to be in the digital world that there are so many tools which help you with all this. So just do not copy paste and do patch writing, just changing words here and there, 2 sentences from this article, 2 sentences from the other article, and then making a paragraph of your own and putting it. No, that's not allowed. Okay, copy straight away, copy paste, or forgetting to cite. Okay, this is not intentional but unintentional, but that's not acceptable. So we do not want to do all these things. We have to remember that we have to read our documents carefully, take our notes at our end, and then use the appropriate technique to avoid similarity. So I have been using this referencing, citing on and off during the entire session. So there are some standard recommended reference style, and that depends upon the subject area in which you are working. So for example, people who are working with languages use this MLA, that is Modern Language Association. These are a set of guidelines again given. How will you use or how will you give a particular reference when there is one author, or how a journal paper has to be written, how a footnote has to be written. Similarly, in psychology, we have the American Psychological Association, which has given good guidelines, and in library science, we use these guidelines only, the APA guidelines. Then Chicago Manual of Style is used in humanities as an alternative to MLA. It is also used by architecture discipline. In sciences, they either follow the style of a particular journal, which is specified, or they have these, councils, different councils of different subjects. And that's how they follow their guidelines. So proper referencing is also a skill which we need to develop, and proper referencing will help us to avoid plagiarism, coupled with proper paraphrasing, summarizing, and quoting. So this skill also is something that we have to really improve upon and do. And now there are various tools available for this. As long as you understand the basic concept of it and use it properly, this very time consuming task is very well taken care by the various softwares which are available. Okay, so this is one very important thing. Then quoting, I said that we are using quotation as a technique, but how to quote will again depend on which citation style you have been using. So MLA would say a particular system, APA would look at a particular system, and then they would give, but most commonly, if you are using it as in a continuous sentence, the way I have written, the Beatles wrote lyrics that claim all you need is love, and then we give the reference. If we are using it as a complete sentence, then like this with quotation marks. And if the words are more than 40, then the block has to be separate. By block, I mean it has to be written separately with some kind of indentation. Okay, the way the last blue one has been shown. So you have to be very careful how you are using it. And this again, the basics of this will change as per the reference manual, that is either APA or MLA or Chicago or whatever that you are using. There are small differences in that, and that you have to know when you are using which appropriate style as per your research discipline. Okay, this is very important that you have in mind. Now, as I said, it's very easy to get caught because technology is there. Technology is an aid to us also, and it also will help detect if we have followed any kind of wrong practices. Turnitin is one of the very, very popular, or I would say the most robust system for plagiarism detection. Urkund is also a wonderful software that we have, and Urkund is also provided by UGC to most of the universities. So teachers who are doing PhD at various universities or various research centers, all their theses are actually run through Urkund for the plagiarism check and for that report that is generated. Now, when it comes to software, it's not about the software being good or bad. There is nothing like the software being good or bad. It's about the database of the software. How many resources it scans through decides the output of the software. So there is nothing like Urkund is not good and Turnitin is the best, nothing like that. It depends on the database. The technology part of both the software is as simple as identifying a common word here and there. Okay, but it's the database which is the main thing which decides the output of the software. Okay, so Turnitin and Urkund, of course, these are paid softwares, but we have several free softwares. Before I go to the free softwares, this is just a sample report of Turnitin, which you can just see, you know, that on so and so page number, you can see this 21% matches from this particular. So you can see a 72% of similarity, which is huge, which is unacceptable. The UGC guidelines say 10% or less. Okay, so this is something very, very alarming, and it is giving you from the internet resources. The student has copied 69% from publications, 14% from other student papers, so much, and it is showing that now 21% is coming from one single resource. Just look at this percentage, which is so high. So how to interpret the report which is generated by a software is also very important. You will see these different kind of color codes and it will show what is the percentage of overlap. Again, I'm saying it does not give you a plagiarized report. What it gives you, it is calling it as a similarity report, a similarity index. There is always a human intervention in between when we have to understand this particular reports generated by a software. In sciences, or maybe even in social sciences, there is some kind of terminology which has to say that the paper reports so and so. Now these four words are going to be common across many, many papers. So if we set that similarity, I mean that exclusion of words to 0, even this kind of, the study showed that, the paper showed that, the paper highlighted the following, such kind of things are also going to come as a similarity. Okay, so the report should always be interpreted by the guide, by the student properly to understand what is the case. Of course, 72 by no means is an acceptable thing. So just as a alarming paper, I have shown you this, that see, such kind of things also do happen and we have to avoid that. And what we have to do is all the things that we have seen previously: paraphrase, summarize, quote, cite properly. Okay, and before that, read the original source. Now there are several free tools that are also available. I'm not saying that these tools are foolproof, and neither saying that they are bad. To begin with, in absence of anything, they are good enough. But what happens in many of the cases is, if you are putting your paper, sometimes if you have checked through, there are limitations on the amount of content that can be checked. That is one thing. And second is, in some cases, it goes and sits in their repository. So after correction, when you go for the second time, it will again show a red mark, and because your content is in their repository. Okay, so these are two disadvantages. One of the biggest thing about the anti-plagiarism softwares is also that Indian languages and data which is not published online or in digital format, it cannot detect. Because that is simple, the database is not of print. Some journals which came in print, if you have used some content from there, or you have lifted rather some content from there, it will not come because the online database does not have it. But we are now aware that that is not correct, and therefore we are not going to resort to such kind of means. But free softwares, there are some advantages, there are some disadvantages. Indian languages, now there are softwares which are coming up taking care of Indian languages also, but it is still in the nascent stages, and we are looking forward for some good softwares coming up in this regard. Okay, so there are DupliChecker, Viper, you all must have used. There are many, there are many softwares like these free ones which are available, through which we can change. See, the color code here, shows each reference. So blue means a particular reference, green is something else, and then there will, it's giving you the suggestions to rewrite. So that way you can improve upon your writing. Now, you must be familiar with this Grammarly. Even when we are writing an email, a lot of ads come, and when we are using Google also, a lot of ad comes. So now this Grammarly is a writing tool which helps us improve our language while we are writing for our research work. It also has an inbuilt plagiarism check. Okay, so that can also be used by us. So what I would like to summarize, when we are just looking at all this that we talk about, that it's very consciously that we should imbibe these practices at an early stage. Very important again that I am re-emphasizing this point, that please read the original document. Do not cite it on the base of a document B where A is cited. Please do not do that. Read A and then cite A. Otherwise, cite B the way you want to use B. Do not cite A on the basis of what you have read about A in the B document. Please do not do that. Be committed to your own work, and if you have difficulty, you face a problem, please talk to your professors, please talk to your librarians. They will be more than happy to help you. Please cite the resources very carefully. Okay, use appropriate methods to quote, paraphrase, summarize. Choose any of the method that you want. It should depend on what you want to convey from the literature in your paper in support of your research work. This is very important that you take care of it in this way. And use softwares, they help us by improving our writing. If there are unintentional mistakes that we have made, we can always detect them, we can improvise on them, and we can write, we can improve our writing, delete all those mistakes, work on some parts which have been errors, and then our fresh document will be very much free from any kind of similarity from the existing resources. Okay. So this is something that I had to share with you. I would try to answer some of the questions that you have in mind. And if possible, if time permits, with the permission of the organizers, we can have a small quiz. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. I think we can have.
Yeah, I think so. We have good amount of time left.
Yeah.
So can I stop sharing now?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, students, pretty sure this must been a very enriching session. Like it has been very enriching for me itself. Do you all have any questions? You can open the floor for any form of questions or any form of doubts.
It's a dry subject, and as we do, we improve on it, we work on it, we learn through our mistakes also many a times, but we have to make a conscious effort for it.
Yeah, ma'am. Nevertheless, even though dry, I think so very important about how IP and the plagiarism works. I think so in the coming generations, this is going to be very, very important.
Yes.
Students, you can put your questions in the chat box. If there are no questions, then can we start the quiz?
Yeah. Just give me 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
All right, ma'am.
So I'm putting a link in the chat box. Okay, students can access this link. Okay, I see a question. What if we write down our own sentence, but it is similar to that of the paper we haven't heard of yet? Exactly, then what do we? Yeah, in this case, if it is so, if you have not read a paper and your sentence is similar to the one that you have not heard for, in the software report, it will come, and that time we can take effort if required to correct it. Isn't it? We can
So
do
we
that.
would have to change the wordings then.
We would have to change the wording then. Just a minute.
Ma'am, can I have a question?
Yes, sure, madam.
Yeah, ma'am, actually I am from pure mathematics background. So what I see is in our subject, generally suppose we take a space, then it is generally denoted by capital X. We don't use any other letter. So these are the things that are, coming from the past so many decades.
Yes.
So taking capital X as a space, we are taking X comma Y as a variable. So generally we take vectors and A and B. So these are the permanent fixed things that are taken in my research area. So whenever we are writing our statements, like I write mine is pure mathematics. So I write my theorem statement. So that theorem statement will definitely have the similarity index more, because when I will write let Xt be a metric space, then this is a statement in hundreds and thousands of papers.
Yes, madam. Absolutely.
Take it from the web. And also the, my papers which are on the web already, it takes from that also. My question is, like in mathematics, particularly when I am writing let Xt be a metric space, I have to write it like that. When I will choose P, Q, and that doesn't make sense, because our mathematics
is incorrect. Yes.
to see X as a metric space. So what's the solution for that?
Yeah, I'll try to answer your question.
Yeah.
This thing happens in most of the sciences, madam. It happens in
Okay.
chemistry, it happens in physics.
Must be.
We say titration is like this, so titration is going to be like this. So if I am saying that I'm using titration as a method to do something else, it is still going to be like that. So in the software, and as I said, there is always a human intervention required to read a the similarity report. So even if you just see, when we submit our PhD thesis, and the report which comes out has 2 particular paragraphs which say that the similarity is within the acceptable limits and it is not within the acceptable limits. If it is not, the guide has to give a justification for it.
Okay.
But this is a very next stage. To answer your question, coming back to it, as I said, that there is a human intervention required. The software just identifies similarities. There is a method of exclusion. Okay, we say exclude quotes, exclude bibliography. Then, as I said, similar words, exclude up to 5 similar words. So when you say P is equal to Q or whatever, that can be excluded because this is fact. Now, in this case, it's a very well-established standard fact. So either you must have cited it somewhere, or this can be a part of exclusion, that because in sciences, this is very, very common.
Exactly.
This happens in all sciences. Your query is definitely. And when you are saying my own papers, that's the second part of the query, your own papers. So when it shows, suppose it shows that your paper is similar to 4 other papers. Okay, and it shows that 2% is similar from paper A, 1% is similar to paper B, and it is maybe 10% similar to paper D, which is your own paper. Okay, in that case, that source can be excluded from the report.
Okay, and one more thing, ma'am. For example, when we do our research, we take the previous author's statement as such. And we are writing in our preliminary section of the paper, we write it as that the following author has proved the following statement.
Yes.
Statement is the exact statement from the paper.
So if you are exact, then it is quotation.
Yeah.
Sciences, paraphrasing is very less used.
Yes.
Not
play
of words. It's stating of facts as
stating of facts. Yeah, exactly. So that means
science
should be excluded.
Different. Yes.
Okay.
It will exclude. Madam, there is a percentage which we can decide: 1%, 2%, 5%. Up to 5% is quite an acceptable exclusion in the software. The last page of the Turnitin software, maybe Sujata can help with the Urkund thing. I have not studied the Urkund software reports very much in detail, but on the last page of the Turnitin software, there is a column which shows all the exclusions. So whatever we have excluded will be seen to the supervisor, to the authorities. That in Priya Madam's research report, quotes have been excluded, bibliography has been excluded, 5% match has been excluded. Now this 5% will have a different. There is no standard guideline, but up to 5% because the UGC does not give it. But when we are sending it to the publishers, no, as a part of a research paper, what we do is we do not put any percentage, maximum 1%. Because tomorrow the publisher should not show from his report that this much has come. So better the author improves at this particular stage. So 1%. In science, almost around 3 to 4% may your report comes out properly. And this, what we are doing is very clear cut. Everybody can see it is a last part of our report. Okay, so what we have excluded.
So that means all those papers which I am taking as a base of my research paper, those should be excluded because I will be writing the exact statements, exact concept.
Not all the papers. Your particular papers can be excluded. Your entire paper can be excluded if required. If there should not be a major overlap amongst your same writings. No, as I said that it should. Yeah.
But ma'am, what about that reference? For example, if I'm using a author's paper, and I am generalizing a author's paper, but I will have to write the a author theorem as such.
Yes.
Change that. So that will not.
In that case, you will cite the author, right?
Yeah.
That Pythagoras has given this particular.
Exactly.
So in that case, there is no question of it being similar.
Okay, it will not come.
It will come because you are giving appropriate. See, a theorem is a theorem. You can't play with words.
Yeah, exactly. We can't change it technically.
No, there is no question in science about such things for theorem and other things.
Yes.
But with mathematics or physics derivations, this is very, very peculiar.
Yeah, exactly.
It will not come as plagiarized.
Okay,
if you are giving a particular theorem, a formula, Euler's formula, Pythagoras theorem, it will be similar.
Similar, yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
How many hours do we need to put in every day for writing a good research paper? Oh my God, a very serious question. I mean, see, it also depends on many things. It depends on what kind of resources you have. It is also each person's individual ability. I might take 4 hours, you might take 2 hours every day. But as we write, we definitely improve. You know, this is like that. I will have to do a lot of exercise to lose some weight. You might just with half an hour of walk, you might be able to maintain. So this is difference. It is our own ability, what we are doing, how complex is our research topic. That is also equally important. How complex is our research topic? And as we proceed, we handle complex topics also, isn't it? So that way, there is no standard guidelines. But as we can, if you are really able to devote 1 hour or so on reading and some time on writing within that, it would be really wonderful. But this is no standard thumb rule or any kind of answer like this.
I would like to add here, ma'am, because it is, we have the audience, students.
Yes.
I really want to tell, because that is what you are saying. They should read a lot.
They should read a lot.
Writing a paper. Suddenly they jump right. They jump to the writing paper and they just start writing. I think minimum 2-3 months at least. They should the concept, the topic on which they want to write down. And
therefore, I was constantly emphasizing that please read carefully, read, understand. Everything that we read, we do not understand while we are reading it for the first time. And I very much told you about my example. My teacher could immediately identify, no, this is not what Halnerd has said. See, so that I'm again saying that our teachers are able to identify this very quickly. And of course, software and all is baad mein ka baat. But right now, when you know this, with experience, you will also learn this. That if your junior has written and you can understand, this has not been done correctly. Okay, so it's by practice, and you have to read. You have to really read. Research, writing, and even understanding a research paper is a skill that we have to develop over time. It is very, very important. Reading papers, scanning, reading, and identifying, and then after you do this, maybe with practice, which you will develop an expertise, and when you know what sections of the paper to glance, cut, this is of my use, this is not of my use, let it go up. So this kind of sieving in process also will happen very fast once you develop that. That kind of things are also very, very important. So in our college, we have this exercise also where students have to read some, or not all do it, but we do emphasize that reading research papers and then writing an abstract, you do not use the abstract that is given in the paper, that is not given, and then you try to write an abstract. That's how you will develop this. So if you're able to develop, so please, reading is very, very important. And as librarians, I think we have always been emphasizing on that, whether it is general reading, whether it is research reading, it is something. And it's not that, you read a hard copy, you read a book, anything. Now you all are blessed with so much, you have your mobiles, you read, but understanding that particular concept is very, very important before we reproduce it somewhere.
yes.
Yeah. Ma'am, do we have to cite definitions, or it does? No, definitions are not common knowledge, my dear. Definitions are not common knowledge. Definitions have to be quoted to be specific. They have to be quoted as they are. Okay. If XYZ has given a definition, then you have to quote it exactly. We have to cite definitions. It's not common knowledge. Any other questions? So shall I share the link of the quiz?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay, this is the link of the quiz.
We haven't received it, ma'am.
I
Have you
have put
sent
it in
it?
the chat box.
I have not received anything.
No, ma'am. Not received.
Okay. Just a minute. I think it has gone only to specific.
Yeah. It should be to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Students must have completed the quiz.
I am still doing.
Okay. Students, you have to take the quiz. It's compulsory for you to take up the quiz.
So do we continue, or should I stop the quiz now? I think most of the students have attempted it, and each one of you can see your rank or performance or whatever. Of course, that's just for your this thing.
We can end it, ma'am.
Yeah.
Because of the time constraints.
Yes.
Yes. I would really like to thank you. I'm really grateful to you, ma'am, for taking out time and effort that you have took to share your knowledge with our students and with us as faculty member. I have learned a lot from your presentation. It was really, really very knowledgeable, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking out time.
Thank you. My pleasure. I hope that I've been able to meet the expectations of the organizers.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely.
And the students have really gained some part to begin with their journey in research. Thank you, Priya ma'am. Thank you, Samson. Thank you, Sujata.
Yes, thanks to Sujata, who has given us, your contact details.
She's a dear friend
yes.
of mine. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Thanks
no,
a
it's
lot,
my
Sujata.
pleasure, Priya. And I know Meghna since very long, and she is her basic nature is she is very helpful and she is very cooperative. She never say no for anything. So you can also take her contact if any problem. And she is very sharp also, very knowledgeable resource person. So
Sujata,
if
we also
any
have the best librarian in our college. Who help us every time.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah, but I really admire Meghna's knowledge because she really have good knowledge. Her PhD topic was on scholarly communication, where she has studied lots of researchers, publications and open access. So her knowledge is really very commendable. I agree that. Thank you,
Thanks to
Meghna,
both of
for
you.
making this
Thanks to both of
happen.
you for
Thank
giving
you.
your
And
knowledge,
I
for
thank
sharing
all
your
the
knowledge with us.
organizers, the principal of the St. Andrews College, the management for giving this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Yes, Meghna ma'am, before the end, I would like Professor Ruth to officially give the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Avishkar Committee and St. Andrews, I would like to thank Dr. Meghna for such an enriching session. I'm sure all our students have learned a lot today, including me, and we are going to apply it in our research paper. Thank you for taking us through all the ethical practices to plagiarism, the methods to avoid plagiarism, how to cite, and giving us different tools to check. Also, the quiz was really fun. So we had a wonderful session, ma'am. Thank you so much. Look forward to learning from you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. My pleasure to be associated with your college. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I too enjoyed the session a lot, ma'am. It was very enriching. I think so. I learned a lot. So many things that I wish I knew when I was in my MA thesis.
Yeah,
I've
and
done so
therefore
many
I really
blunders.
appreciate the initiative taken by your college to make your students learn this at this early age. It's really worth appreciating. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Students,
Can
I
take a
have.
leave?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Same to you.
Students, I have shared a feedback link in the chat. Kindly fill it. Okay. We have made it contingent that you fill your certificate of participation. Okay, so please fill it, and by evening, all these certificates will be mailed to you.
Can I request the organizers to share the recording of the session
Sure,
Yes, ma'am.
later?
Sure. Yeah, ma'am. Sure.
Thank you. Bye, Sujata.
Bye, Meghna.
ma'am is
Yeah.
gone already.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
thank
Sujata.
Priya,
All
it's my
because of you.
pleasure. No. It's
It was
because of you.
really enriching. I hope the students have learned. Now they are starting their journey for research.
Yeah, this is their initial stage, Priya. I
Yes.
think students will run, at least as Meghna said, this is the right stage when we are
Yes,
inculcating
exactly.
such kind of issues amongst them. So they will learn. Definitely
Yes.
they will learn.
And it is also good for our new mentors, the young mentors who are guiding the students.
Yes, of
Starting
course.
their journey. Yeah.
Of course. And we always learn some or other thing from everyone.
Yes.
So that is a great thing that we are part of this initiative, and you are taking this Avishkar. Also, Samson is very, he is also doing a lot of thing in the research, and
Got the
every
best
year,
team.
yeah, every year he has one paper, research paper, and I must say his paper is really very good. This year,
Yes.
Samson, for your paper, we got similarity index only 1%.
Wow.
So
Yeah, ma'am.
therefore, I did not share it because the last time
That's
those who
great.
have more than 10%, only those
Yeah.
reports were shared. So this is good attempt, and students will also learn it definitely. And we are always there to help them.
Yes.
So can I leave Priya now?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Priya. Thank you,
Thank
Samson.
you, Sujata,
Ruth,
ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, students, please fill the feedback form. And my team should stay back just for
Yeah, so once you all have filled the feedback form, guys, you all can leave. The organizing team will be staying back.
students, you can leave after filling the form.
Ma'am, I think so you should end the recording.
Samson, I hope it should save on my this thing.
Yeah, it will save. Once the